Don't bother coming over for New Year's Eve. My husband doesn't want you here. My daughter's text message didn't just hurt, it felt like a physical blow to the chest. For 5 long years, I had watched him slowly isolate her, control her every move, and push me out of her life. Everyone around me said, "Just stay quiet, Robert. Keep the peace for her sake." But they didn't know the truth. They didn't know that the house they called theirs was actually mine. I had kept my mouth shut long enough. I sent one single text back. 53 minutes later, my daughter was standing on my porch, pale as a ghost and shaking like a leaf. She had no idea what I had just set in motion. Her husband never saw it coming. What happened next destroyed his world and ultimately saved hers. Before I get into the details, drop a comment below and tell me where you're watching from. I want to know that this story is reaching people who understand what it truly means to stand up for your family. My name is Robert Vance, 65, a retired Marine from Portland. I raised my daughter, Sarah, on my own after my wife passed away, working double shifts in construction and private security. 20 years of that grueling grind bought me enough financial stability to help my daughter when she finally needed it. 5 years ago, Sarah married Jason Reed. He had a marketing job that seemed decent enough, and he could be charming when he wanted to be. When they got engaged, I put the down payment on a beautiful 3-bedroom house for them in Tigard. It was the kind of fresh start I never had growing up. We kept the deed in my name temporarily, just to simplify the loan process. "Dad, this is too much," Sarah had said, tears in her eyes. "That's what fathers do, sweetheart," I told her. That first year was wonderful. We had Sunday calls, monthly dinners, and Jason would grill burgers in the backyard. Sarah looked genuinely happy, and I thought I'd done the right thing. But then the atmosphere began to shift. The calls became less frequent. When I phoned, Jason would answer instead of her. "She's busy, Robert. I'll have her call you back." She rarely did. Visits were canceled with flimsy excuses. "Jason has a headache. The house is a mess. It's just not a good time." I told myself newlyweds need their space, but every rejection stung a little more. When I did manage to visit, Jason hovered over us like a prison warden. If Sarah and I started talking, he would interrupt, steer the conversation, or check his watch. Something was broken, and whenever I left, Sarah would follow him with an apologetic look on her face. "Next time, Dad," she'd mouth. But next time happened less and less. Jason started making snide comments. "We really value our independence, Robert. Married couples need strict boundaries with extended family." He spoke as if I were some distant second cousin, not the father who had sacrificed everything to put a roof over their heads. Sarah changed around him. She became quieter, more careful with her words, constantly checking his reaction before speaking. This past year was the worst. No Thanksgiving invite. I spent Christmas alone, eating a frozen dinner, while Sarah sent a generic text. Then came December 29th. I had planned to host New Year's Eve. I bought expensive steaks, hoping we could just sit down, talk, and maybe I could get my daughter back. Then the text hit. "No other plans. Jason doesn't want you here." I was effectively banned from a house I had bought, banned for my daughter's life. I sat in my silent kitchen and something inside me finally clicked. 20 years in the Corps taught me to assess a threat clearly. Facts don't lie. I bought that house. My name is on the deed. They had never paid a single dime toward the mortgage. I was being erased from a life I was funding. I opened my laptop and pulled up the property records. Robert Vance, sole owner. My fingers flew across the keyboard. "This is to inform you that I am exercising my rights as the property owner. You have 30 days to vacate the premises. The formal eviction notice has been filed with the county." I hit send. 10 minutes passed, then 20. I made a pot of coffee and watched the rain streak against my window. 45 minutes later, a car screeched into my driveway. It was Sarah's Honda. I watched through the blinds as she got out, clutching a piece of paper, the rain soaking her hair instantly. She looked terrified. I opened the door before she could knock. "Dad," her voice cracked, barely a whisper. "What have you done?" I stepped aside and let her in. Sarah stormed into the living room, waving the printed eviction notice like it was a weapon. "You can't do this. You can't just evict us." "The notice is legal, Sarah. 30 days. It's Oregon law." "But that's our home. We've lived there 5 years." "It is my house, Sarah. My name is on the deed. My down payment, every single mortgage payment has come from my bank account." She stopped dead, staring at me as if the thought of who actually paid for the roof over their heads had never occurred to her. "We've taken care of it. We made it our own." Without permission, without asking. I stayed seated, keeping my hands steady on my knees. "When did you stop calling me, Sarah?" "We've been busy." "When did Jason start answering your personal cell phone?" Silence. "When did I become an intruder in a house I paid for?" She shifted her weight, looking at the floor. "We have boundaries. We're married. We need space." "Then why am I not welcome for New Year's in my own property?" The question hung heavy in the air. She couldn't look me in the eye. "Jason just thought we should start our own traditions. It's not personal." "It is personal. Your husband doesn't want me there, and you chose him over your father." Tears welled up in her eyes, but she stayed defensive. "You're overreacting. It's just one holiday." "It's about respect. It's about gratitude. It's about everything you have taken for granted." She tried to negotiate. "What if we invite you now? Will that fix it?" I shook my head slowly. "It's too late for that." Her sadness turned to anger. "So you're punishing us over a text message? Where are we supposed to go? Jason just quit his job to—" She stopped abruptly. A cold chill settled in my gut. "Jason quit his job?" I asked. She looked away. "To start his own business. It's a temporary thing." Red flags were waving in my mind, but I didn't push it yet. "Please, Dad, we can't afford to move right now." I walked to the window, watching the storm intensify outside. "You should have thought about that before making me unwelcome in my own property." I turned back to her. 30 days, Sarah, the notice stands." She stared at me, tears streaming down her face. "I can't believe you're doing this. Jason said you might pull something like this, but I didn't think you actually would." Every instinct I had went on high alert. "Jason said what?" She realized she'd slipped up. "Nothing, forget it." She headed for the door, then paused, her hand on the knob. "You're going to lose me over this, Dad." The words hit hard, but I had been in combat. I knew how to take a hit and keep standing. "I already lost you, Sarah," I said softly. "I'm just acknowledging the reality of it now." She flinched, then she was gone. The door slammed and I heard her tires spinning on the wet pavement. I stood in the silence of my living room, the weight of what I'd done pressing down on me. Had I just destroyed my relationship with my only child over a house? But a deeper voice, the one forged in the Marines, cut through the emotion. "No, you stood up for yourself. You drew a line." For years, I had let the erosion happen. I told myself it was normal to give them space, but there is a difference between space and erasure. The house was just property, but respect and dignity, those mattered more. I couldn't go back now. The next morning, I woke up with absolute clarity. In the military, we had a saying, "Hope is not a strategy. You need intel, you need a plan, you need to execute." By 9 a.m. on December 30th, I was sitting in Kate Bennett's law office downtown. She had handled my will years ago. Sharp, efficient, and no nonsense. I laid out the entire situation. The text, the eviction, Sarah's confrontation. Kate reviewed the paperwork, nodding. "Legally, it's airtight, Robert. The house is yours. They've never paid rent or mortgage. 30 days is proper notice." She paused, looking over her glasses. "But family disputes get ugly." "It's already ugly," I said. "Then we document everything," she replied. "We file the official eviction with the court today, and you need a property inspection immediately. If they made unauthorized changes, you need a record of it before they leave." She handed me a business card. "Tom Miller, appraiser. He's the best." I called him for my truck. January 2nd, that Tuesday arrived cold and miserable. I texted Sarah, "Property inspection today, 2 p.m., my legal right as owner." No response. Tom met me at the house. I hadn't been inside in 6 months. All those excuses about the house being messy suddenly made sense. Walking through the front door, my stomach didn't just drop, it churned. The house had completely changed. Where there used to be walls, there was now open space. Modern, but wrong. The floors were stripped. Tom took out his camera and notebook. "Loading bearing walls," he pointed to a beam that looked stressed. "Removed without permits. This is a serious structural code violation, Mr. Vance." We moved to the master bathroom. New tile, fancy fixtures. Tom knocked on the wall. A hollow, dull thud echoed. "Water damage behind there," he muttered. "Improper installation. Unpermitted electrical work here, structural issues there, shortcuts everywhere." When Tom closed his folder, we stood in the kitchen, the only room that looked halfway recognizable.
"Mr. Vance," Tom said gravely, "between the unpermitted work, the structural instability, and the water damage behind those tiles, you're looking at roughly $43,000 in repairs, maybe more." "$43,000?" I whispered. "They haven't improved your property," Bill said quietly. "They've destroyed your investment." After he left, I walked through the house alone. This was supposed to be Sarah's security blanket. I had worked until my back ached for years to save that down payment, passing on vacations and new cars so she could have what I never did. They had gutted it without asking, treating my generosity like a demolition site. The anger that rose in me was cold and clear. This wasn't about a holiday dinner anymore. This was fundamental disrespect. I drove home through the rain. My phone remained silent. Sarah never responded to my text. At home, I sat with Tom's preliminary report, photos showing everything. This validated the eviction instantly. They had proven they couldn't be trusted with my property. My phone vibrated on the table. When I saw the caller ID, I knew the real fight was just beginning. Jason Reed. We had never spoken directly on the phone, usually just fake pleasantries at dinners. I answered. His voice was cold, controlled. It reminded me of enemy combatants trying to negotiate a surrender they didn't intend to honor. "Robert, we need to discuss this situation you've created." "I'm exercising my property rights, Jason." "That's one way to see it. Another is that you're making your own daughter homeless right after the holidays." I kept my voice level. "She's had 5 years of rent-free living. That's more than generous." "You just can't stand that Sarah chose me," he sneered, "that she has her own life now. If you go through with this, everyone is going to know. I'm posting on social media right now. Elderly veteran evicts daughter during winter. The local news stations love these kinds of sob stories." My jaw clenched so hard my teeth hurt. "Go ahead, and I'll share the report about the unauthorized destruction of property, $43,000 in damages, code violations, no permits." Silence on the other end. You had it inspected?" His voice was different now, caught. "I documented everything, Jason. Every wall you tore down, every pipe you messed up." "We improved the house," he shouted. "Without permission. That is destruction." He hung up. The next morning, January 3rd, they showed up at my door at 9 a.m. sharp. Jason was holding a folder with a fake, tight smile plastered on his face. Sarah looked exhausted, her eyes puffy. I let them in. Jason pulled out some contractor estimates. "We can fix everything, Robert. We'll get permits retroactively. We'll pay for the repairs." I looked at the numbers he was waving. $43,000, Jason? With what money? Sarah told me you quit your job." "I've been approved for a personal loan," he said quickly. Red flag number 2, taking on debt to fix damage they caused. "And we want to buy the house," he continued. "We'll get a mortgage, pay you full market value." It sounded reasonable on the surface, but I saw a calculation in Jason's eyes. He was certain he had won. Sarah added, her voice trembling, "We'll invite you for holidays, Dad. We'll call more. Things will go back to how they were." "Back to when you stopped answering my calls?" I asked. "Back to when Jason decided if I was allowed to visit?" Sarah flinched. Jason stayed smooth. We're trying to make this right. Meet us halfway here. I walked to the window. If I drop the eviction, what really changes? You'll still resent me. Eventually, we'll be right back here. I turned to face him. Be honest, Jason. Will you genuinely welcome me into your lives? His mask slipped for just a second. A flash of pure, unadulterated anger crossed his face. Sarah saw it too, and she looked uncomfortable. Jason stood up, his voice hardening. You're making a huge mistake, old man. Sarah will never forgive you. Jason, don't, Sarah started, reaching for his arm. He pulled away. We're done here. He grabbed Sarah's arm, pulling her toward the door. Sarah, let's go. Sarah hesitated, looking back at me with confusion and fear. He pulled harder. Now! She followed him out. After they left, my neighbor Martha knocked on the door. She had heard the raised voices. Are you all right, Robert? I explained the situation. She listened gravely. Martha was a retired school teacher, sharp as a tack. I've seen him around, she said. The way he watches you, the way he controls when Sarah talks to you. She paused. That's not normal, Robert. It's not healthy. I taught for 30 years. I know his type. Controlling, manipulative. You should find out who Jason Reed really is.
She was right. I needed to know exactly who I was dealing with. The next morning, I called my lawyer, Kate. I need a background check on this man. Deep dive. She didn't hesitate. Elena Cruz, she's the best private investigator in Portland. By the afternoon, I was in Elena's office in the Pearl District. She was professional and direct. I explained everything: the isolation, the property damage, the threats. I need his background, I said. Employment history, finances, anything that explains his behavior. I'll find it, Elena said. Give me a week. The next 9 days crawled by. I maintained my routine, coffee shop, walks, veteran group meetings, but my mind was elsewhere. Sarah called twice, begging me to reconsider, reciting lines that sounded exactly like Jason. Then, on January 14th, my phone rang. Robert, it's Elena. I have the information on Jason Reed. You need to come to my office now. This can't wait. I drove downtown, my heart hammering. Elena had a folder spread open on her desk. Jason Reed is not who he claims to be. She pointed to a document. First job out of college, Westview Brands. Fired for embezzlement. Small amounts at first, falsified expense reports. They didn't prosecute to avoid a scandal. I stared at the paper. Embezzlement. Second job, a real estate investment firm. Fired for forging client signatures. Again, no prosecution, just termination. She pulled out a credit report. He is drowning in debt, Robert. $60,000. Credit cards, personal loans, and a payday loan from 3 months ago. I felt cold. Sarah thinks he has savings. He told her they were financially stable. He lied, Elena said flatly. But here is the kicker. She turned her computer screen toward me. These are his search history logs, obtained legally. Look at the search terms. Adverse possession, Oregon. Tenant rights after 5 years. How to claim property through continuous occupation. I stared at the screen, the blood draining from my face. He wasn't trying to drive you away because he dislikes you, Robert, Elena said. He was trying to steal your house. If he could establish 5 years of continuous occupation, treat it as his own, and make improvements, he could potentially claim ownership through adverse possession laws. The isolation, the renovations, it was all calculated. This wasn't family drama. This was premeditated theft. I sat in my truck outside her office for a long time. Then I texted Sarah, "Dinner tonight, just you. We need to talk. It's important." She agreed. At 6 p.m., she arrived. I had made beef stew, her childhood favorite. The smell seemed to relax her, bringing back memories of better times. "Why did you want me here?" she asked after a few bites. I placed the folder on the table. "I hired a PI to look into Jason." "You did what? That's insane." "Read it, Sarah, please." She opened it reluctantly. I watched her face crumble.
the embezzlement, the forgery, the $60,000 debt, and finally, the search history about stealing the house. "No," she whispered. "He said we were building a future. He was building a case to take my property from both of us." She wept, head in her hands. "I defended him. I pushed you away for a con artist." "I didn't know," I said gently. "Men like that are professionals at manipulation." "I need to confront him," she said, wiping her eyes. "I need to hear him deny it." "Be careful," I warned. "When the mask falls off, it gets ugly." She left with the folder. At midnight, I got a text. "Come over tomorrow morning, 10 a.m. We need to finish this." When I arrived, Jason and Sarah were in the living room. The tension was thick as to choke on. The folder lay on the coffee table. Sarah looked at Jason. "Tell me the truth. Did you embezzle money from Westview?" Jason laughed nervously. "That was a misunderstanding. Corporate politics." "Did you forge signatures at the real estate firm?" "I had verbal authorization. They just wanted to get rid of me." "And the debt?" She threw the credit report at him. $60,000, Jason. You told me we had savings." "I was managing it. I was going to pay it off once the business took off." "With whose money?" I spoke up. "My house equity?" I leaned forward. "Tell her about adverse possession, Jason." His face went pale. "You searched it 17 times. You were researching how to steal the house legally. That's why you did the renovations. That's why you kept me away, to prove hostile and exclusive possession." Sarah stared at him with horror. "You were trying to steal from my father? From us?" Jason stood up, and the charm vanished. His face twisted into a sneer. "You want the truth? Fine. That house should have been ours. We lived there 5 years. We fixed it up. Your father had no right to hold it over our heads like a carrot on a stick." "It was his house," Sarah screamed. "He's a controlling old man," Jason shouted back, pointing at me. "And you're weak, Sarah. You're pathetic. You can't see the big picture." Sarah's voice dropped, quiet but deadly final. "Get out." "What?" "Get out of this house. Get out of my father's property." "You'll regret this," Jason spat. He looked at me with pure venom. "You poisoned her against me." "I showed her the truth," I said. "You did the rest yourself." Jason grabbed his keys and stormed out. We heard his truck peel out of the driveway. Sarah collapsed onto the couch, sobbing. "I'm so sorry, Dad." "It's over now," I said, holding her. "You're safe." 2 weeks later, the sheriff formally removed Jason's remaining belongings. He tried to sue me for unjust enrichment, claiming I owed him $50,000 for his renovations. The judge looked at the photos of the destroyed load-bearing walls and laughed the case out of court. Jason was ordered to pay my legal fees. I couldn't bear to fix the house, too many bad memories. I sold it as is to a developer. After paying off the mortgage, I walked away with $85,000. It wasn't the investment I planned, but it was enough to secure my retirement. Sarah divorced Jason. It took time, but she rebuilt her life. She went to therapy to understand coercive control. She got promoted at work. She started smiling for real again. 6 months ago, she introduced me to Michael. He's a graphic designer. He shakes my hand firmly, looks me in the eye, and treats my daughter like a partner, not a possession. Last week, on my 67th birthday, Sarah raised a glass. "To my dad," she said, "who taught me that love doesn't mean accepting abuse, and that sometimes the bravest thing you can do is draw a line. Don't be like me. Don't wait until you're standing in the rain reading a text that says you're not welcome. If someone is isolating your loved one, that is not love. That is control. And if someone is researching how to steal from you, smiling at your dinner table, that is not family. That is fraud. Your life is worth fighting for. Your boundaries are necessary, and sometimes you have to be willing to lose the relationship to save the person. If this story resonated with you, please subscribe to this channel for more honest stories about life, boundaries, and the courage it takes to protect those you love. God bless you all.